He touched the dying alien princess, and her royal family gasped as she began to heal. He could see vast forests, sparkling rivers, and mountains that glowed faintly in the sunlight. Zyphora was beautiful, but Ethan could not shake the feeling that something dangerous waited there. He tightened his grip on the seat's armrest, trying to calm the nervous flutter in his chest. This mission was not supposed to be easy. Humans were visitors here, and the locals, the Lumeri, were known to be cautious, sometimes even hostile toward outsiders. The shuttle landed with a soft thud, and Ethan followed the others down the ramp. Commander Hall, a tall woman with short brown hair, gave orders calmly. "Stay close. Remember, we are here as diplomats first. Protect the princess, but do not provoke them." Ethan nodded. He was not the most experienced soldier, but he was determined to do his part. As he stepped onto the alien soil, he felt the cool, soft texture beneath his boots. Zyphora's ground seemed alive, almost breathing under his feet. He shivered, unsure if it was fear or excitement. The Lumeri Palace was enormous. It rose from the forest like a tower of crystal, reflecting the sunlight in every color of the rainbow. Ethan had never seen anything like it. Guards lined the entrance, their glowing armor shimmering as they watched the humans closely. The Lumeri themselves were tall and graceful, with translucent skin that glimmered faintly and eyes that seemed to hold the light of the stars. Ethan could feel their eyes on him, studying him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was tense. Queen Alara, a regal figure dressed in flowing robes of silver and blue, watched the humans silently. Ethan felt a weight of expectation pressing on him. He had trained for dangerous situations, but diplomacy was new. He had to protect the princess, Leora, without causing alarm. Leora, the princess, was young but carried herself with calm dignity. Her hair shimmered like spun silver, and her eyes were the color of the deep ocean. She looked at Ethan and the others with a mix of curiosity and something else he could not name. The mission quickly turned urgent. A hostile faction from Zyphora's neighboring system had attacked the outer border, sending waves of their soldiers to the palace's territory. The Lumeri guards moved swiftly, but their technology could not stop the intruders completely. Alarms blared through the palace, and Ethan felt the adrenaline surge through him. This was why he was here, to protect, to fight if necessary, to be human in a world that might not understand humanity. Ethan followed a group of guards as they rushed toward the princess's chambers. He could hear distant explosions, the hum of energy weapons, and the sharp cries of alarm. When he reached the room, he froze. Leora was lying on the floor, her body glowing faintly in a sickly green light. Plasma burns ran across her arm and leg. She gasped, struggling to breathe. The room was full of royal guards, but they were panicked. Their advanced healing devices were failing. The energy in the room seemed chaotic, and fear hung thick in the air. "Princess Leora!" Ethan shouted as he ran toward her. Some guards tried to stop him, thinking he would make things worse, but he ignored them. His instincts had taken over. He reached her side, knelt down, and gently held her hand. Her skin was cool, almost like ice. He did not know what he could do. He had no technology to heal her, no special power, only his hand, only his presence. But as he looked into her eyes, something inside him stirred. He felt a strange warmth spread through his chest, and without thinking he pressed his hand against hers. A sudden light flared from Ethan's hand. It was soft, golden, and filled the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. The green glow from Leora's injuries began to fade. Ethan's heart pounded as he watched her wounds close, the burns vanishing as if they had never happened. The princess gasped, drawing in a deep, unsteady breath. Her eyes widened and she looked at Ethan with shock. The guards froze, their mouths open. Even Queen Alara, who had been watching from the doorway, stepped back, her hand flying to her mouth. No human had ever done such a thing in Lumeri history. Ethan himself was stunned. He had not tried to heal her. He had only wanted to help, to reach out. And yet here she was, breathing steadily, her injuries gone. The golden light slowly dimmed, leaving Ethan holding the princess's hand. He looked at her, unsure what had happened, unsure what he had done. "Are you okay?" he asked in a quiet voice, still kneeling beside her. Leora's lips trembled, and then she nodded. I think so," she said softly. Her voice was weak but steady. She looked around the room, her gaze finally resting on the royal family. What just happened?" she whispered. The queen stepped forward, her eyes narrowing slightly as she examined Ethan. "You," Queen Alara said, her voice firm but curious. "You touched her." She looked at Ethan, studying him as if trying to see through to his soul. "And she lives?" Ethan nodded, his hand still holding Leora's. He could feel the warmth leaving his hand slowly. It was like the light had passed from him into her, leaving him slightly drained but unharmed. He did not understand it. None of the humans did. The royal guards exchanged uncertain glances. "This is impossible," one of them whispered. "Humans cannot channel energy like this. Their species is fragile." Ethan felt the weight of their suspicion. He had done something incredible, something the Lumeri could not explain, but they looked at him with both awe and fear. He had saved the princess, but he did not yet know what it meant for him, or for all humans. Leora struggled to sit up, leaning slightly against Ethan for support. Her silver hair fell over her shoulders, and she looked at him with wide eyes. You saved me," she said, her voice filled with wonder. How is this possible?" Ethan shrugged helplessly. "I don't know, I just reached out, I wanted to help," he admitted. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. He had acted with courage and compassion, not with thought or power, and yet that was enough. Queen Alara moved closer, her expression cautious but less angry. "Ethan Hayes," she said slowly, as if tasting his name. "You are no ordinary human. Perhaps there is something in your species we have not understood." Ethan blinked. "I'm just a soldier," he said. "I didn't mean to." "No," Leora said quickly, interrupting. "It was beautiful. You didn't just save me. You—" Her voice faltered, and she looked down at her hands. Ethan could feel her gratitude, her shock, her connection to him. It was strange and unfamiliar even to him. He had never felt anything like it. Outside the chamber, the sounds of the skirmish continued. Ethan knew that the threat was not over. The invaders could strike again at any moment. But inside the room, there was a moment of quiet. The princess was alive, and for now the humans and Lumeri were united in awe at what had just happened. Ethan helped Leora to her feet, supporting her as she moved. The guards still watched him warily, unsure if they could trust him fully. But the queen's eyes softened slightly, and she nodded. "Stay with her," she commanded, addressing Ethan. "Do not let her out of your sight. If another attack comes, you will protect her." Ethan swallowed. He had not expected such responsibility, but he did not hesitate. He had been given a chance to show what humans could do, and he would not fail. As they moved through the crystal halls of the palace, Leora leaned lightly on Ethan's shoulder. Do you feel it too?" she asked quietly. "The energy when you touched me," Ethan shook his head. "I felt something, warmth, I guess, but I don't understand it. I just wanted to help." Leora smiled faintly. "It is rare for a Lumeri to feel a connection like that, but with you, it is different." "You are different." Ethan could only nod, unsure what to say. The palace was quiet now, but tension lingered in the air. The Lumeri were a proud and advanced species, but they had never seen a human do what Ethan had just done. Word would spread quickly, and he knew some would fear him, some would admire him, some might even want to study him. But Ethan only cared about one thing, keeping the princess safe. In the days that followed, Ethan stayed close to Leora. He watched as she recovered, slowly regaining her strength. Each day she became more herself, laughing softly, moving gracefully, and speaking with confidence. And each day, Ethan felt the strange connection grow. He did not know what it meant, but he felt it as clearly as he felt the warmth in his chest when he had first touched her. Outside the palace walls, the threat of the invaders remained. Scouts reported movement near the border. Ethan knew that soon he would have to fight, not just to protect Leora, but to prove that humans could be more than what the Lumeri expected. He had already shown them a glimpse of what humanity could do. Now he would have to show them more. But for that moment in the quiet halls of the palace, Ethan simply held the princess's hand. And as she smiled at him, he realized something important. Courage, kindness, and a willing heart could create miracles, even among the stars. The human soldier and the alien princess, standing together, had become more than allies. They had become a symbol of something new, hope. And on a world as strange and beautiful as Zyphora, that hope was about to change everything. The palace was quiet now, but tension still lingered in the air. Ethan Hayes stayed close to Princess Leora, watching her carefully as she regained her strength. The royal guards were still uneasy, moving with extra caution whenever humans were near. Ethan understood their fear. He had done something impossible in their eyes, something they had never seen before. But he did not understand it either. He only knew that Leora was alive, and for him, that was enough. Leora sat by the tall window in her chamber, looking out at the glowing forests of Zyphora. She traced her fingers along the glass, thinking about the moment when Ethan had touched her hand. She had felt warmth, comfort, and something else she could not name. It was strange, powerful, and alive. The royal family had watched in shock, and the palace staff whispered to each other about the miracle that had occurred. Some called it magic, some called it a blessing, and others called it dangerous. Queen Alara paced slowly in the hall outside the chamber. Her robes swished against the floor, and her hands were clasped tightly behind her back. She had studied Ethan since the moment he touched her daughter. The human was tall and strong, with simple brown hair and steady eyes. He did not look dangerous, but the queen could feel that there was something different about him. Something that even the Lumary scientists could not explain. She stopped pacing and looked at the guards around her. "Keep him close," she said firmly. "I want him near the princess at all times, but we must learn more about him. If he has this power, we cannot ignore it." Ethan had not left Leora's side. He helped her with small things, carrying her water, adjusting her chair, and making sure she rested properly. She had regained enough strength to sit up and walk slowly, leaning on the guards at first. But each day, she grew stronger. And each day, the bond between them grew, subtle but undeniable. Leora began to speak more freely to Ethan, asking questions about humans, about Earth, and about how someone like him could exist in a world so different from hers. "I still do not understand," Leora said one morning, her voice soft. She leaned on Ethan's arm as they walked through the palace gardens. The gardens were vast, with plants that shimmered and floated slightly in the air. "How could a human touch me and make me heal?" "It is not possible," Ethan shook his head. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I did not try to heal you, I just wanted to help. I guess it just happened." He looked down at his hands, flexing them slowly. "I don't understand it either." Leora studied him for a moment. "It is not only healing," she whispered. "I felt connected to you. When you touched me, it was like your energy reached into me. I have never felt that with any Lumary, never." Ethan felt a shiver run through him. He did not fully understand what she meant, but he could feel it too, a strange warmth that seemed to flow between them. It was not just kindness. It was something deeper, something he could not explain. Meanwhile, in the council hall, Queen Alara spoke with her advisors. "The human is extraordinary," she said. "But extraordinary can be dangerous. We do not know his limits. We do not know what he is capable of." The advisor Tavin, a tall Lumary with sharp features, nodded slowly. "Perhaps we should study him carefully. We cannot ignore the possibility that he carries a type of energy unknown to us. But we must be cautious. If this energy is powerful, it could threaten the entire kingdom." Back in the princess's chamber, Ethan helped Leora practice walking. Each step she took was steadier than the last. She smiled faintly, leaning on his shoulder. "You saved me," she said again. "I will never forget it." Ethan shrugged, a small smile forming on his lips. "I didn't do it for thanks," he said. "I just wanted you to live." Leora's eyes softened, and for a moment the weight of the palace, the queen, and the world seemed to fade. There were only the two of them, connected in a way neither fully understood. The next day, the palace alarms rang again. Ethan's heart raced. A small group of intruders had been spotted near the palace border. The Lumary soldiers moved quickly, but the scouts reported that these attackers were more skilled than before. Ethan knew that another battle could come soon, and he had to be ready. But Queen Alara had other plans. "Ethan," she said firmly, "stay with the princess. Your duty is to protect her. Let the guards handle the scouts. You will intervene only if necessary." Ethan nodded, but inside he felt the tension building. He was human, and he knew what humans could do. He wanted to be ready for anything. Leora sensed his worry. "Are you afraid?" she asked softly. Ethan shook his head. "No," he said. "I just want to make sure you are safe." "That's all," Leora smiled faintly, touching his arm lightly. "You have already saved me once," she said. "I think you can handle anything." Ethan looked at her, feeling a surge of warmth. He had never imagined that humans could be part of something so important, something so powerful. And yet here he was, standing beside a princess who depended on him for her life. Days passed, and Ethan began to learn more about Lumary culture. He discovered that their species relied on life energy, a force that connected every living being. Humans had been considered weak, unable to channel this energy. And yet somehow Ethan could. He did not know why, and he could not control it fully, but the effect was undeniable. Leora watched him carefully during these lessons, fascinated by the simple, human way he approached life. He did not need rituals, he did not need technology, he just acted with his heart. The palace staff whispered about him constantly. Some were frightened, some were amazed. Rumors spread that the human soldier was a miracle, that he had been chosen by some unknown force. Ethan ignored most of the whispers, focusing only on the princess. But he could feel the change in the palace. Humans were no longer considered merely fragile. They were something else, something capable of more than anyone had expected. One evening, Leora and Ethan sat together in the palace garden. The twin moons of Zyphora rose over the horizon, casting silver light on the trees and flowers. Leora leaned on Ethan's shoulder, her voice quiet. "Do you think other humans could do what you did?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "I don't know, maybe it's just me, or maybe it's something humans can do if they act with courage and heart." "I really don't know." Leora looked at him with thoughtful eyes. "I have never met anyone like you," she said softly. "You are different, and it feels right." Before Ethan could answer, the palace alarms blared again. Scouts had spotted the invaders moving closer. Ethan felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. He looked at Leora, who was now fully aware of the danger. She did not panic, but her grip on his arm tightened slightly. "Stay with me," she said firmly. Ethan nodded, standing protectively in front of her. The human soldier was ready, not just to fight, but to prove that humans could stand strong even among the stars. The palace guards formed ranks outside the garden. Ethan studied them carefully, noticing the patterns of their movements, the weaknesses in their formation. He had fought in human battles before, but this was different. These were aliens with technology far beyond anything he had faced, and yet he felt a strange confidence. He had already done something impossible. He had saved a princess. Perhaps he could do more. The intruders arrived with a sudden roar, weapons glowing brightly as they charged. Ethan moved quickly, using cover and strategy to protect Leora and guide the Lumary guards. He shouted orders, moving with precision and courage. The palace erupted into chaos, but Ethan stayed calm. He did not know if his human instincts were enough, but he trusted them. Every move he made kept Leora safer. Every decision bought them time. During the battle, Leora fell behind, caught in a moment of danger. Ethan sprinted toward her, dodging blasts and leaping over fallen debris. He reached her just in time, grabbing her hand as a plasma bolt flew past. She looked at him with wide eyes, breathing heavily. Ethan felt that strange warmth again, the same one that had healed her before. Without thinking, he touched her hand lightly. The energy flowed from him, glowing softly, and the immediate danger seemed to fade. Leora's fear eased, and she stood steadily beside him. The attackers paused, startled by the light and the effect on the princess. Ethan realized that his touch had done more than protect her. It had shown the Lumary energy in action in a way they could not explain. The invaders hesitated, unsure how to proceed. The palace guards took advantage of the pause, countering the attackers and forcing them to retreat. Ethan stood beside Leora, his chest heaving with exhaustion but his spirit strong. He had acted with courage, heart, and instinct, and it had been enough. After the battle, the palace was quiet again. The royal family gathered around Ethan and Leora, studying the human soldier with new eyes. Queen Alara approached him slowly, her expression softening. "You have proven yourself," she said. "Perhaps humans are capable of more than we ever believed. You have our respect, Ethan Hayes, and you have my trust." Ethan nodded, still breathing heavily, unsure of what to say. Leora smiled at him, and for the first time he felt fully understood. That night, as the moons of Zyphora glowed softly, Ethan sat beside Leora in her chamber. They were both quiet, reflecting on the events of the day. "You are brave," Leora said finally, "and kind, and something more. I cannot explain it, but I know you are special." Ethan looked at her and smiled faintly. "I'm just human," he said, "but I guess humans can do amazing things when they try." Leora leaned lightly on his shoulder. "I think you are more than human," she whispered. And for the first time, Ethan believed that perhaps she was right. The palace was still tense, and the threat of new attacks remained. But for Ethan and Leora, a bond had formed that could not be broken. Humans were no longer just visitors on Zyphora. They were part of something greater, something that might change the future of both species. And in that quiet moment under the twin moons, hope grew brighter than any fear, stronger than any doubt, and more powerful than any weapon. The palace was quiet after the recent attack, but the air was filled with tension. Ethan Hayes walked alongside Princess Leora through the halls, their steps echoing softly on the crystal floor. The Lumary guards watched them closely, still unsure about the human soldier who had saved their princess twice. Ethan did not mind. He was used to scrutiny, and he knew that the people here were cautious for a reason. He had seen their technology, their strength, and their strange way of life. Humans were outsiders, but for now he had a purpose: to protect Leora and help her recover. Leora leaned lightly on Ethan's arm as they walked through a corridor filled with glowing murals. Each mural told a story of the Lumary's history, their wars, their discoveries, and their rulers. Ethan looked at the images, fascinated. The Lumary were advanced, far beyond humans in many ways, yet there was a fragility in their culture. They relied heavily on energy channels, devices, and rituals. And yet, a single human had changed everything for them. He felt the weight of that responsibility pressing down on him. "Do you think the others will understand?" Leora asked quietly. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. Ethan glanced at her. "Who?" he asked. She nodded toward the palace guards and staff. "The rest of the Lumary." "Will they accept a human as part of this? Will they trust you and me?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "I don't know, some will, some won't, but we can't control that. We can only do what we can." Leora smiled faintly. "That is very human of you," she said. "You face danger and do what is right, even if others doubt you." Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest at her words. Humans had always been underestimated, told they were weak, fragile, or incapable of great deeds. And yet here he was, standing beside an alien princess who depended on him for her life. He had acted without thought, without magic, without advanced technology. And it had worked. Somehow, courage, heart, and instinct had been enough. Days passed as Ethan stayed near Leora. She walked more confidently each day, moving through the gardens and halls with grace. The palace staff watched them closely, whispering about the human who had healed their princess. Some were fearful, unsure what this human could do next. Others were in awe, marveling at his courage and calm in the face of danger. Queen Alara observed quietly, her expression unreadable. She had begun to see the value in humans, but caution remained. One morning, Ethan and Leora were in the palace courtyard. The sun of Zyphora shone through the floating crystal trees, casting dancing lights on the ground. Leora stopped and pointed to a small plant growing near the fountain. Its leaves glowed faintly, and it seemed almost alive in a way Ethan could not explain. "Everything here is connected," she said softly. "The plants, the animals, the people, even the energy in the walls, everything is part of the same life." Ethan knelt down, touching the leaves lightly. He could feel a faint hum under his fingers. "It's beautiful," he said. "Like it's alive," Leora nodded. "It is alive, and yet when you touched me it was different. You brought life in a way no Lumary ever could." Ethan looked at her, surprised. "I didn't do anything special, I just helped." Leora smiled faintly. "No, it was more than that. It was your heart. Humans may be fragile, but they can be strong in ways we cannot measure." Later that day, Ethan was called to the council hall. Queen Alara and her advisors awaited him. Tavin, the advisor who had been skeptical from the start, stepped forward. "Ethan Hayes," he said, his voice firm, "you have done something extraordinary. You saved the princess twice now. We do not understand it, but your actions have changed how we see humans." Ethan bowed slightly. "I'm just a soldier," he said. "I acted to protect her." "That is all," Queen Alara nodded. "Still, your actions are significant. We must consider what this means for the future of our species and yours. You have a gift, or perhaps a strength that is rare." Ethan felt uncomfortable with the praise. He had never considered himself special. He was only doing what he thought was right. After the council meeting, Ethan returned to Leora. She was in the library studying a holographic map of Zyphora. Her hair shimmered in the light as she looked up at him. "Did they discuss me?" Ethan asked quietly. Leora smiled faintly. "Not exactly, but they discussed you. They are beginning to see that humans may be more than they thought, and they are beginning to trust you at least a little." Ethan nodded. "I just hope I don't disappoint them. Or you." Leora shook her head. "You won't. You have already done more than anyone could ask." Over the next week, Ethan and Leora spent time together in the palace gardens, talking and learning about each other's worlds. Ethan told her stories of Earth, of humans, and of courage in the face of impossible odds. Leora shared stories of Lumary history, their battles, and their traditions. Ethan listened carefully, fascinated by their culture. He began to understand the depth of their connection to life energy and why his touch had been so surprising. Humans were not supposed to interact with that energy in this way, and yet, somehow, he had done it. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Ethan and Leora sat by the fountain in the courtyard. The water glowed faintly, reflecting the silver light. Leora leaned on his shoulder, her voice quiet. "Do you feel it too?" she asked. Ethan looked at her, puzzled. "Feel what?" "The connection," she said softly, "between us. When you touched me, it was not only healing. I felt something reaching out, something alive, and I think you felt it too." Ethan nodded slowly. "I think I did. I don't understand it, but it was real." "And it felt right," Leora smiled faintly. "I have never felt that with anyone else, not with any Lumari, not even my closest friends, but with you, it is different." Ethan felt warmth in his chest, a strange calm that he had never known before. The peaceful days did not last long. Scouts reported movement near the palace border. The invading faction that had attacked before was returning, stronger and more organized. Ethan felt a surge of tension in his chest. He had trained for combat, but this was different. These were aliens with advanced technology, trained to fight and kill. And yet he felt a strange confidence. He had already done what was thought impossible. Perhaps he could do more. Queen Alara called a meeting with Ethan and the royal guards. "The invaders are returning," she said. "We must be ready. Ethan Hayes, you will stay close to the princess. Protect her. If the palace is attacked, your skill and courage will be needed." Ethan nodded. "I understand." "I won't let her be harmed." Leora's hand brushed lightly against his arm. "Be careful," she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "I always am, for you." The following days were tense. Ethan trained with the Lumari guards, learning their technology and strategies. He shared some of his own tactics, showing them simple but effective ways to defend the palace. Leora observed quietly, impressed by his ability to adapt. She could see the respect the guards were beginning to give him. Even Tavin, who had been skeptical, nodded approvingly at Ethan's suggestions. One afternoon, Ethan and Leora walked through the palace gardens. The light of Zyphora's twin suns bathed the flowers in gold and silver. Leora looked at Ethan seriously. "I do not know why you have this power," she said softly, "but I feel safe with you, and more than that, I feel connected. Even if danger comes again, I know you will protect me." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had never felt such responsibility before, but he accepted it willingly. "I will protect you," he said firmly. "No matter what." Leora smiled, leaning lightly on his shoulder. The next day, scouts reported the enemy was approaching in full force. Ethan helped organize the palace defenses, moving quickly and giving orders. He had studied the layout, memorized the weak points, and knew how to use the Lumari technology effectively. The guards followed his lead, their trust in him growing with each command. Leora watched from a safe distance, her heart pounding, but her confidence in Ethan never wavered. When the enemy finally arrived, chaos erupted. Energy blasts lit up the skies, and the palace shook from the impact of attacks. Ethan moved swiftly, guiding the guards, protecting civilians, and keeping Leora safe. He felt the same warmth he had felt before, a strange energy that seemed to flow from him, calming and strengthening those around him. The invaders paused for a moment, surprised by the display. It gave the Lumari guards the advantage they needed to push back, forcing the attackers to retreat. After the battle, the palace was filled with relief and cautious celebration. Queen Alara approached Ethan, her expression softer now. "You have done more than any human has a right to do," she said. "You have earned our respect, our trust, and perhaps our admiration." Ethan bowed slightly, still exhausted but proud. "I only did what I could," he said. Leora smiled at him, her eyes shining. "And it was enough," she said softly. That night, as the palace settled into quiet, Ethan sat with Leora in the garden. The twin moons reflected in the fountain water, casting silver light on their faces. "You are not just brave," Leora said quietly. "You are extraordinary, not because of strength or weapons, but because of your heart. I have never met anyone like you." Ethan felt warmth in his chest. He had always believed in courage, but he had never realized how far it could reach. "I am just human," he said softly, "but maybe humans can do amazing things if they try." Leora smiled faintly. "I think you are more than human." For the first time, Ethan believed her. Humans were fragile, yes, but they could be strong in ways no one had ever measured. And here on Zyphora, that strength was being seen, appreciated, and perhaps even respected by an alien race far more advanced than his own. The morning sun shone weakly through the crystal towers of the Lumari Palace. Ethan Hayes stood at the edge of the balcony, looking out at the distant forests. Scouts had reported movement near the borders again, and the enemy was returning, stronger than ever. Ethan's jaw tightened. He had trained for battles before, but this was different. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were organized, skilled, and ruthless. And yet he felt a strange calm. He had faced impossible odds before, and he had protected Leora. Somehow, he knew he could do it again. Princess Leora appeared behind him, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight. She rested a hand lightly on his shoulder. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded. "I have to be. I will protect you no matter what." Leora's eyes softened. "I trust you." "And I feel safe with you." Ethan turned to her, meeting her gaze. He had never felt such responsibility, yet the warmth in his chest reminded him why he had been chosen for this mission. Not by anyone else, but by the chance to act with courage and heart. The palace was quiet as the Lumery prepared their defenses. Guards checked weapons, energy shields hummed to life, and advisors discussed strategy. Ethan moved among them, giving suggestions and organizing the ranks. His human perspective brought a new approach that the Lumery had not considered. Simple tactics, quick decisions, and fearless action made a difference. Slowly, the guards began to trust him, their earlier skepticism fading. Even Tavin, the advisor who had doubted him before, nodded in approval at Ethan's plans. Hours passed, and the twin sons of Zyphora climbed higher. The distant sound of engines and energy weapons signaled that the enemy was approaching. Ethan positioned the guards along the palace perimeter and took up a station near the main gates. Princess Leora stayed behind protective shields, but she insisted on being close to the action, her silver eyes scanning the horizon. "We have to defend our home," she said quietly, almost to herself. Ethan nodded. "We will, together." The first wave of attackers arrived suddenly, moving quickly through the forest. Energy blasts lit the sky, and the palace trembled as the Lumery fired back. Ethan moved with precision, guiding the guards and protecting key positions. He shouted orders calmly, his voice carrying over the chaos. "Flank left, shield the main gate. Move forward, but stay covered." The Lumery followed, their trust in him evident in the way they listened and acted. The battle raged for hours. Ethan saw civilians caught in the crossfire and ran to help them, using his body to shield them from energy blasts. He moved like a force of nature, fearless and precise. Leora watched, awe and worry in her eyes. She knew he was human, fragile in ways she could not measure, but she also knew that his heart, his courage, and his instinct made him stronger than anyone she had ever seen. At one point, the enemy broke through the outer defenses and rushed toward the palace gates. Ethan sprinted toward them, dodging blasts and using his shield to protect a group of guards. He fought with skill, combining human combat techniques with Lumery energy shields. Each move was calculated, but his courage carried him further than logic alone. He could see the enemy faltering, unsure how a single human could stand so boldly among them. Then a cry rang out. "Leora." Ethan turned just in time to see her cornered near the fountain, a group of attackers closing in. His heart pounded. He ran toward her, leaping over fallen debris and dodging energy blasts. He reached her side and grabbed her hand just as a plasma bolt shot past. Instinct took over. He pressed his hand against hers, and the same golden warmth he had felt before surged through him. The air around them glowed softly, and Leora's fear melted away. She felt safe, strong, and alive. The attackers froze, their confusion evident. Ethan felt the energy flow through him, stronger than before. He realized he could not control it fully, but he could direct it when needed. Leora looked at him, her eyes wide with awe. "You, again," she whispered. Ethan only nodded, breathing heavily. "Just stay close to me," he said. "I've got you." The golden light spread briefly around them, forcing the enemy to retreat. The palace guards seized the moment, pushing back the invaders with renewed energy. The battle continued for hours, but Ethan remained at the center, guiding the Lumery with courage and strategy. He protected civilians, coordinated attacks, and ensured that Leora remained safe. Each time she was threatened, his touch or his presence gave her strength, as if his human heart could channel something the Lumery had never seen. Guards whispered among themselves, unsure how a human could possess such power and calm in the midst of chaos. Finally, the enemy began to retreat. The palace had survived, though the outer walls were damaged. The air smelled of scorched crystal and ozone, and the sound of alarms slowly faded. Ethan stood beside Leora, both of them breathing heavily but alive. The golden light in his chest had faded, leaving him exhausted but triumphant. Leora looked at him, eyes shining. "You saved us," she said softly. "Again." Ethan shook his head, still catching his breath. "I didn't do it alone, we all did it together." She smiled faintly. "But you are different. You are extraordinary." Queen Alara approached them, her face calm but proud. "Ethan Hayes," she said, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "You have protected the princess and our people in ways no human or Lumeri has ever done. You have shown courage, heart, and strength. We owe you more than words can say." Ethan bowed slightly. "I only did what I could," he said. "I only wanted to protect her." Leora reached out and took his hand lightly. "You did more than that," she said. "You saved me and perhaps even our future." The royal guards gathered around, still amazed by what they had witnessed. Tavin stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. "This human is unlike any we have known," he said. "His courage and heart are rare. Perhaps even unique." Ethan nodded, still unsure how to respond. He had never thought of himself as unique. He had only acted with instinct, with compassion, and with the desire to do what was right. And somehow that had been enough. That evening, Ethan and Leora walked through the palace gardens, their steps slow and careful. The twin moons of Zyphora rose over the horizon, casting silver light on the floating flowers and crystal fountains. Leora leaned lightly on Ethan's shoulder. "Do you know what you have done?" she asked softly. "You have changed everything. The palace, the guards, even my people, they will never see humans the same way again." Ethan shook his head. "I just did what I thought was right." "I didn't expect any of this," Leora smiled faintly. "That is what makes it special. You did not seek power, you acted with heart, and that is why you succeeded." Over the next days, the palace began to repair the damage. Ethan remained close to Leora, helping her with small tasks and walking with her through the halls and gardens. The Lumeri guards no longer whispered in fear, but spoke with respect. Even Queen Alara moved with a quiet pride, watching Ethan and Leora together. The bond between human and princess had become a symbol, a sign that courage, kindness, and heart could bridge worlds. Ethan felt the energy inside him more clearly now. He did not know where it came from or how it worked, but he understood its importance. It was not magic or technology. It was human compassion, courage, and selflessness made tangible, and it had saved lives. Leora watched him closely, sensing the power and the connection that flowed between them. She had never felt anything like it with any Lumeri. Humans had always been fragile, limited, and weak in their eyes, but Ethan had shown them otherwise. One evening, as the palace lights glowed softly, Ethan and Leora sat together by the fountain. She looked at him seriously. "Do you realize what this means?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "No, I only know that we survived. That's enough for me." Leora smiled faintly. "It is more than enough. You have changed how humans will be seen here. You have shown courage, heart, and strength. You have shown that humans are capable of miracles." Ethan felt warmth fill his chest. He had never thought of humans in that way. He had never considered that one human could make a difference on an alien world. But now he knew he had. The twin moons reflected in the fountain water, and the night was quiet. Ethan and Leora sat together, their hands brushing lightly. The battle was over, but the threat was not gone. The enemy might return. The palace might be attacked again. But for now they had hope, trust, and courage. And in the quiet of the palace gardens, Ethan realized something important. Humans were not fragile. They could be brave, strong, and kind. They could face danger and protect those who needed them. And sometimes that was enough to change the world. The palace was quiet the morning after the battle. The air smelled faintly of scorched crystal, and the gardens had a thin layer of dust from the fight. Ethan Hayes stood near the fountain, watching the twin moons slowly fade in the light of Zyphora's suns. He was tired, sore, and drained from the energy he had used to protect Princess Leora during the fight. His hands still tingled from the warmth that had surged through him. He did not fully understand what it was, only that it had helped her, and the palace, survive. Leora appeared behind him, her silver hair glinting in the early sunlight. She stepped close, her eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper. "Ethan," she said softly, "I can't stop thinking about what you did. You saved my life again, and you saved so many others." Ethan shook his head, his voice quiet. "I didn't do it alone. The guards, the people here, they all fought. I just did what I could when it mattered." Leora reached out and took his hand lightly. "It was more than enough," she said. "It was you. Only you could do it like that." the palace slowly began to repair the damage. Walls were restored, shields were recharged, and the Lumary soldiers trained to recover from the attack. Yet something had changed. The humans in the palace were no longer seen as weak visitors. They were respected, even admired, for their courage, heart, and determination. And Ethan in particular was no longer just a soldier. He had become a symbol of hope, a bridge between human and Lumary. Queen Alara summoned Ethan to her chambers. He entered quietly, bowing respectfully. The queen studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded slowly. "Ethan Hayes, you have done more than any human or Lumary could have imagined. You protected my daughter, defended this palace, and showed strength that is rare in any species. For that, you have my deepest respect." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He was not used to such praise. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said simply. "I only did what I thought was right." The queen's eyes softened. "And that is why you succeeded. Your heart is extraordinary." Back in the palace gardens, Ethan found Leora waiting for him. She walked beside him, her steps light and careful as she recovered fully from her injuries. The golden glow from the energy he had channeled days before seemed faintly visible, a reminder of the bond that had formed between them. Leora looked at him seriously. "I have never felt anything like this," she said softly. "Not with any Lumary, not with anyone, but with you it feels right, safe, strong." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "I feel it too," he admitted. "I don't understand it, but I know it matters. And I will protect you always." The palace held a ceremony to honor the defenders. Lumary and humans stood together, celebrating their survival and the courage they had shown. Queen Alara presented Ethan with a simple silver medallion, engraved with the symbol of the palace and the royal family. "This is for you," she said. "A reminder that you are part of this world now. You have earned a place among us, Ethan Hayes." Ethan accepted it humbly. He did not seek recognition, but he understood the meaning. Humans had always been underestimated, but here, on Zyphora, one human had made a difference. After the ceremony, Leora and Ethan walked alone through the quiet halls. She looked at him with soft eyes. "Do you realize what you have done?" she asked. "You have changed how humans will be seen here. You have shown courage, heart, and strength. You have shown that humans are capable of more than anyone thought." Ethan nodded slowly. "I didn't think about that when I acted. I just wanted to protect you and the palace, but I guess it matters, and maybe humans can really be more than people expect." Leora smiled faintly. "You have proven it, and I will never forget it." Over the following days, Ethan stayed close to Leora as the palace returned to normal. They trained together, studied together, and shared quiet moments in the gardens and halls. Each day, their bond grew stronger, built on trust, courage, and shared experiences. The Lumary watched them with awe, realizing that a human had not only survived among them, but had earned a place in their hearts and their history. One afternoon, Leora led Ethan to a small chamber filled with holographic displays of Zyphora's forests, rivers, and cities. "I want you to see something," she said. Ethan watched as the images moved, showing how the palace and its people had survived and recovered after the attacks. "This is your work," she said softly. "Your courage helped all of this. You brought hope when there was fear. You showed strength when others doubted, and that changed everything." Ethan felt warmth fill his chest. He had never considered that one human could make such a difference on an alien world, but now he understood. He had. That evening, Ethan and Leora sat by the palace fountain, the twin moons of Zyphora reflected in the water, casting silver light across their faces. Ethan reached out and took her hand. "Do you ever wonder why this happened?" he asked softly. "Why I did what I did? Why I could help you when others could not?" Leora shook her head. "I don't know, but I think it doesn't matter. What matters is that it did happen, that you acted with courage and it changed everything. That is more than any of us could hope for." Ethan smiled faintly. "I just wanted to help. I guess humans can do amazing things when they try." Leora leaned on his shoulder lightly. "You are more than amazing. You are extraordinary, not because of strength or skill, but because of your heart. That is what saved me and the palace. That is what makes humans worth knowing." Ethan felt a rush of warmth and pride. He had never thought of humans that way. He had always seen them as ordinary, fragile, limited. But now he realized that courage, kindness, and selflessness could make humans extraordinary, even among the stars. The palace was safe for now, but Ethan knew that threats would return. The enemy might strike again, or new dangers could arise, but he was ready. He had learned that courage was stronger than fear, that heart could overcome danger, and that humans could inspire hope even in worlds far from their own. And he had learned that sometimes one person's actions could change the course of history. Queen Alara visited Ethan one final time before he was to return to the human fleet. "Ethan Hayes," she said, her voice calm and proud, "you have earned a place in our history. You have protected my daughter, defended this palace, and shown the true strength of humanity." "I will never forget what you have done," Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I could. I am grateful for your trust." The Queen nodded. "Your heart has changed the Lumery forever. That is more than anyone could ask." Before leaving the palace, Ethan walked through the gardens one last time with Leora. They paused at the fountain where the water shimmered in the sunlight. "Do you think humans will ever be seen as equals here?" Ethan asked quietly. Leora smiled faintly. "They will because of you. You have shown that courage, heart, and selflessness matter more than species or strength. You have shown that humans can be extraordinary, and that will never be forgotten." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight and honor of her words. The shuttle that would take him back to the human fleet waited outside the palace gates. Ethan looked back at the crystal towers and the gardens, at the princess and the people he had come to care for. He had changed them, and they had changed him. He had come to Zyphora as a soldier, an outsider, a human among aliens, but he left knowing that humans were capable of more than anyone had imagined. Leora stepped onto the shuttle with him. She held his hand lightly, her silver eyes reflecting the sunlight. "I will never forget you," she said softly. Ethan smiled faintly. "And I will never forget you. You showed me that being human is about courage, heart, and doing what is right. That is enough to make a difference anywhere." Leora nodded, and for a moment the world seemed still, peaceful, and full of hope. As the shuttle lifted off and the palace grew smaller beneath them, Ethan looked at Leora and then at the stars beyond. He thought about humans, about courage, and about the strange, powerful bond that had formed between him and an alien princess. He had learned that even the smallest actions, even a single touch, could change the course of lives and worlds. And he had learned that humans, with their heart and courage, were capable of miracles. The twin moons of Zyphora shone brightly in the distance as Ethan held Leora's hand, feeling a quiet, steady warmth. He knew that challenges would come again, but he also knew that humanity had proven itself. Humans could protect, inspire, and heal. Humans could stand among the stars and make a difference. And he, Ethan Hayes, had done just that. The shuttle moved swiftly through the sky, leaving the palace behind, but the bond between human and Lumery, between Ethan and Leora, remained unbroken. The story of courage, heart, and hope had just begun. And the universe would remember that on Zyphora, a human had touched the impossible, healed a princess, and forever changed the way an alien world saw humanity.